already being in the national team pool, already like, in high school and stuff, it was like, well, and knowing that I could go other places that were competitive and play, I was looking at a bigger, longer picture. So,
yeah.
As we wrap up, Bill, I have a question for you and for everybody here, obviously, is that projecting 10 years in the future, how different is this list?
Well, Sauce
that's a good question.
Sauce brought up the goalkeeper coach situation. That goes a long ways, and the reality is most universities are like their goalkeeper coaches like in and out. Like it's not uncommon for a collegiate goalkeeper to have 4 different goalkeeper coaches in 4 years. I don't know.
Do you guys think that that's changed a bit since they've added the extra assistant coach? Where it used to be, I'm asking Tori especially, like it used to be where, you had the 2 and the goalkeeper. Even when I was at UCLA, right? So this just changed. When I was at UCLA, I was the goalkeeper coach, but I was a volunteer coach and technically get paid off of camp because I was the camp director, the director of camps.
Right.
So my salary would come from camps. Well, what happened? COVID. So there was no camp. So, so basically I was working for free at UCLA, kind of. And so it was like when you didn't have that third assistant coach, you were always deferring your goalkeeper coach to the not your main assistant, most teams. So there's no money to be had, really. You got to move on.
Yeah.
You have to. Has that changed now? That do you see them teams, because they're allowed another assistant under salary, that third assistant is a goalkeeper coach?
I think for the most part, yes. I do see that a lot. Or like a lot of times I find like GAs end up being the goalkeeper coach, and then that would give way to the moving, because once you're done with your program, you move on somewhere else, or maybe altogether don't coach anymore. So I've seen a lot of GA goalkeeper coaches, or if a school has that position. But I do think more and more from what I've witnessed, which is like a small sample compared to the 300 something schools, I do think that a lot of people have started to have a goalkeeper specific coach and that extra assistant. But it's not to say that goalkeeper coaches aren't leaving. I feel like I even have friends that they'll stay at a university for a couple of years and then move to another one that maybe is bigger or has more resources or has more opportunity. I don't know that it's a thing where you stay to that spot. I think that's a lot of assistants in general, not even just goalkeepers, or like to move maybe to the next step or next phase that might help them get to, if their ultimate goal is head coaching. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't think the money is that good, unfortunately. People anchor. I always think of I don't know his name, but the head coach for Gonzaga's men's basketball team that's been there for 20 something years. He built that program, has done very well with it. The money came with it. There wasn't a need for him to go bounce somewhere else. He's accomplished what he wants. Whereas I think for a lot of us goalkeeper coaches, it's hey, you can make 40,000 over here, or maybe 50,000, and it's whoa, okay, that's a huge jump, but really it's still kind of peanuts at the end of the day.
Yeah,
because you're still not getting a ton of money. So I think you still see a lot of mobility now. I think you definitely can start seeing some schools investing some time and money into stuff, and you look at in Indiana football, how kind of overnight they just started being really good. I don't know what all is going on there, but really they took some seriousness to it. So you think you could see something, but it'll take time.
Every car dealership in Indiana basically just pulled their money into what happened.
Yeah.
That's where all the NIL money comes from. It's always car dealerships, auto shops, local restaurants.
I love Instagram where one of my players I follow, they're hey, come to Joe's auto shop. I'm just thinking you got $50 for that. Congrats. Way to go. Yeah.
All right. UNC it is.
All right.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. We can put this in 50 years. We'll come back to
come back in another 15.
Yeah.
50 years college even exist anymore.
But it is interesting, and that's a good point, Mike, because when I sit back and if you were to go back, obviously things would have been different had we done this, if the internet existed, had we done this in the beginning of the 2000s, right? So totally different schools. Probably UNC would still be there because of who they had back then, but different schools in the mix, like George Mason, like we said, like different, universities. UMass maybe would have been in the mix, like stuff like that. So schools that have dropped off. So it'd be interesting in 15 years that who's not there anymore, like where that changes in the next 10 years, and what schools come up with a lot of money. And like I said, Texas was a good example. Does this change? And like I said, all my heart goes out to Ange and everything. But does that change, because of the money they're throwing at the program and stuff like that? So now do they become a juggernaut? And so it would be interesting. Or do goalkeepers finally start going pro? Because I don't feel goalkeepers are ready to go pro before college, to be honest with you. They're just not. So.
Yeah.
It's a big difference between having a 15-year-old Phil player get integrated into training sessions
bit by bit, and games. You just don't do that with goalkeepers. So it's like you can't just say, okay, I'm going to sub an Olivia Moultrie in, who came in so young, and say, I'm going to give her 20 minutes here. We're going to give her this here. We're going to give her that here. And now she's like friggin' ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous soccer player.
Olivia Moultrie's been a pro for 12 years now,
and it blows your mind that she's still a teenager. I think she just turned 20. She's still a teenager, so that blows your mind. And the way she's playing, and she's with the national team. You don't get that with goalkeepers, and you just don't. And Tori, like even at TKI and stuff like that, getting better comes with experience and age, and understanding of the game. And I find it hard to believe we're going to see a 15-year-old goalkeeper in the NWSL. Sorry.
Yeah, I just think you'd miss out on a lot of development that you'd receive through the game and what the game can show you and kind of expose of you. And until we maybe have a system where there's first team, second team, I don't know that it would be the best thing. I can think of one goalkeeper that was high school age that I would be like, what if you threw her in a pro environment? She would probably give her 2 years and she would be ready. And she was integrated in with our youth national team, so she would have gotten games through that, yada. But
who is it? Name her.
Julia Dole. And that's probably the only person in my time here with TKI and college coaching that I'd be like, yeah, I could see her going pro right away.
If you look at, like you said, the second team, like Kansas City has Kansas City too, right? So they have their second team. They sent them to TST. And it was all young kids and stuff like that. And they didn't move on in TST. Well, neither did Angel City, but if more NWSL teams do that and create that, I don't want to call it a second division, but developmental teams that play against second division.
And year round, not just in summer against other college kids. It's a year round type deal.
Yeah, 100%.
I think, two things. One is that pathway so important, obviously. And I think what you saw in MLS and from it starting out as a glorified club soccer to a legitimate academy programs at a lot of these clubs, it's the same thing. Should some of these ECNL teams become the academy? Happy New Year and welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid. With me is a triumvirate of goalkeeper enthusiasts, professionals, experienced podcasters in some respects. The one and only Stan Anderson from Camp Shutout. Bill Reno, you know him as Everybody Soccer or Let's All Soccer. And somebody that has a lot to do with U.S. soccer right now, the head of goalkeeping himself, Jack Robinson. Happy New Year, everyone. Can you still say that on January 12th? Can you do that?
Sure. That's fine.
Definitely.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Now, before we get into goalkeeping and soccer, we have to focus a little bit on American football right here. Congratulations to the one and only Stan Anderson's Chicago Bears for their 25-point comeback in the fourth quarter on Saturday against the Green Bay Packers. Absolutely phenomenal. And for AI, I'm going to say clip that so that this goes viral right here because it is focused on American football. Congratulations, Stan.
I counted them out, I counted them out. Halftime, I was done. American football, I do love it, just like I love football. But I counted them out. They've done it like 94 times this season, but I counted them out. I was done. This is bullshit. I'm over. But they proved me wrong once again.
Oh my God.
Good for them.
Now, Jack, obviously you've been in the United States for a few years now. Have you gotten into American football? Has it happened?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So one of my close friends is a Chicago Bears fan. So he was very happy on Saturday. So yeah, it was great to see that. An amazing comeback. But yeah, it's a good game. It's really good. We went to one of the Falcons games when we first came here to sort of see Atlanta area, and that was great. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it. It's a great game.
I'm sorry you had to watch the Atlanta Falcons play. I'm so sorry. Did I just say that out loud? Say that out loud. Bill, are you into American football at all? Are you into anything other than doing spreadsheets on goalkeeping?
The problem I got into is I grew up in Texas, and American football down there is a religion, and that really was not. I have a lot of memories of like, not for me. So I'm the odd man out here.
Well,
I want to add real quick that I'm in a household where my wife is a season ticket holder for the Packers, and I am a Bears fan, and that's the oldest rivalry in American sport. I believe it's the oldest rivalry in American sport, considering baseball, basketball, football, soccer, hockey. I don't know that there's a longer standing rivalry, and frankly, we've been getting our ass kicked for 30 years or whatever it's been. So I did not celebrate too much in the house. It was tempered enthusiasm.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of people from the Wisconsin area that go to attend Camp Shutout in the summertime, so you didn't want to lose any of those any of those prospective campers right there. Now, speaking of camp, one of the things in regards to goalkeeping and everything like that, and one of the reasons why the United States has wanted to kind of restructure its whole goalkeeping development program is because for years and years and years there was a camp culture, and it was basically camp culture, and then kind of no really focus on goalkeeping throughout the entire year in the club setting. Jack, I know you've only been over here for a few years, but were you familiar kind of with the setup of American goalkeeping development before you came over?
Yeah, so obviously before I took the role, I did a bit of an investigation, spoke to a few people that I knew out of here. I'd been over a few times to run some sort of camps in the summer in my time off from working at Liverpool and different areas. So I sort of knew that there was that culture here, but obviously coming over here and talking to clubs and talking to goalkeeper coaches, I've started to get a real feel and understanding now of what that culture is like. So yeah, I had an idea before I came over, but yeah, working it all out a little bit more as I'm living here now.
I mean, that's an interesting thing right there, and obviously, Stan, you are one of the gurus of camps out there. And for the guys who haven't been to Camp Shutout, it is the goalkeeping reunion, family reunion, in my opinion. Everyone comes from all different walks of life to celebrate goalkeeping. But as somebody has kind of seen the progression and the evolvement of goalkeeper development in this country, how do camps fit into this still?
Is that for Stan or for?
That's for Stan. That's for Stan. Yeah, that's for Stan. That's for
that part. So that typically doesn't seem so long. Look, I think that there's from a goalkeeper specific perspective, I think there's an absolute place for it because goalkeepers, very, very good goalkeepers, your average goalkeepers, and ones that are struggling to get into the game, they're not getting enough training. And while 1 week is not going to provide you enough training, it can certainly open your eyes to others around you from other states, from other countries that are doing this or that, either this very good or this not so good. And you get a little bit of a compare contrast as to where you are. It is vital for their development in that regard. The most vital will always be inside your club, getting proper goalkeeper training from somebody who knows the position, lives and breathes the position, and is going to spend the proper time with you. It's never going to change that's the best. But there is an absolute celebration that can happen of your position. And that's, excuse me, that's a little bit where we come in.
So by the way, guys, feel free to step in anytime. Don't wait for me to ask you a question or anything like that. Bill, you've kind of seen it on all the different sides, and you've been very much a student of goalkeeper development and session designs throughout the world, kind of, and I know that this is one of the reasons why you wanted to put this whole show together. What are your thoughts in regards to what's taking place here, how you were brought up, and the future and everything?
Yeah, I think the camp, the way I always kind of think of it, the camp life is kind of like the lighting of the fuse. And then as Dan kind of got into, like, there's the other 51 weeks in the year where you're really kind of, putting that effort in. But I think for a lot of us, pretty similar for myself as well, like just grew up, enjoyed it, but then kind of got to a point where it was like, I don't know what these next steps are. So I kind of wish I knew a little bit of what I know now back then. But it's just such a winding road. So Jack, I'd be curious to hear, knowing like the massive landscape of, it's a huge country. You're coming from, a much more smaller, intimate setting as far as like what you're covering, as opposed to US, which is covering a ton of people, a ton of space. What was like an area that you saw that you're like, man, this needs a lot of like, care, a lot of watering, a lot of, like, not so much you're like, oh, this is the first thing I need to do, but what was something you saw you're like, man, this needs a lot more investment, a lot more attention, because right now it's not really being optimal?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the sheer scale and the size of the US is something that's difficult to comprehend and understand when you come from the UK. Like, obviously, you know how big the country is, but there are obviously also different pockets and political stuff within each of the states, and they run their own ways of working. You also have different coaching methods within different areas. So like California tends to be a little bit more sort of South American in its way. The Northeast tends to be a little bit more European. There's culture within the landscape too, and the ecosystem. I think that's great, and I think we should celebrate that difference and that way of working. But the thing for me was, I guess the first bit was, how do we bring all that together, and how do we unify what's going on across the country so that we can help support goalkeeper development across the country, whilst also making sure that we keep that individuality as well, and keep that specialization of the coaches and the quality of the coaches. Because from my perspective as the head of goalkeeping for US Soccer, I can't do this by myself. Like, I need goalkeeper coaches, I need goalkeepers, I need grassroots coaches, mums and dads, to help support the goalkeepers in their regions and where they are. And exactly what you say about the camps, like the camps should be the lighter that starts people falling in love with the position. Like that should be the main thing. Like, the best thing you would do is, I remember as a kid, throw myself around in England. It tended to be cold and wet and muddy, but throw myself around on the grass. And I got home, my mum would hose me down in the back garden, and then I could enter the house. But I did that every weekend, 2 or 3 times a week, because I loved what I did. And we need to make sure that we encourage the next generation of goalkeepers to come through. And that starts with their local regions and the local coaches that come together, but in a way where that we are building towards something so that we get the next best goalkeepers coming through for our national teams.
It's funny that you just brought up something right there, Jack, and I'm going to open this up to the entire, panel right here. But the scale of this country, and also the different types of cultures when it comes to goalkeeping culture in this country, also make it very difficult. Because when you're talking about a 3-hour time difference, for you, it's not like you can go over to Phoenix and be like, down the street to those coaches and be like, hey, I'm just going to shadow and see what you're doing over, at Phoenix Rising. At this club, at this youth club right now. And
I'm trying.
But it is difficult. And I think that's why it's important for us to have these conversations, to be able to share. I mean, look, Stan's in the Midwest right now, Bill's on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, you're in the Southeast and everything. If we can't connect with each other, how are we possibly going to be able to, have any idea of, because I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. And I always tell this to young goalkeepers, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, is that there's no right or wrong way to do anything, right? There's just ways to do things. And you just need to find what's effective for you. Some things may be statistically more effective than others. If what you did was successful, don't criticize it in the moment. all I'm going to do is share with you some other potential ideas that I've found to be more successful in the future that you can try. And if they don't work for you, that's on you. I want you to have that autonomy. I mean, Stan, how do you feel as somebody who's in that club environment?
Well, I tell you, I think that it's a tall task for what Jack has, but it's also a task that I think a lot of people would love to have. We've got goalkeepers all over this country. Matt Turner came out of nowhere after 16 years old. So, let's call that what it is. Matty Freeze, by all real considerations, came out of nowhere as well. He certainly wasn't like a Tony Meola at 15 years old that he was projected to be Matty Freeze in the World Cup, or at least as it seems right now. There are pockets in this country that are producing goalkeepers, and those pockets are continually producing goalkeepers, and obviously Jersey for players. But Illinois has produced a shit ton of goalkeepers on the national team level for all the youth programs, and Gaga and Brady and Celentano. I mean, you can go on and on. So it's a challenging task, but in the club environment, I think you've got to be a little bit patient. The women's side, men's side, two different categories. Women's side, you're going to generally see them pop a little bit earlier than on the guys' side, where a guy like Kane Razvanovic, who's in Jack's under system and under teams and 19s, 20s, whatever he is now, he's a kid that 4 years into working with him, it was where it was like, shit, dude, you've got an ability level that is different than most. And it's not an easy task, but it is also a really, really, really enjoyable task.
It's interesting you said that, Stan, because you're bringing up these players in the pool and everything like that, and I think that's awesome, and I think Bill and I we've had this conversation as well too. It's great that there's a pathway for the elites in this country and everything like that. But when we're talking, Jack, about goalkeeping development and national development plan, it's got to go down to the different levels. So the grassroots, to even the college game, because otherwise, where are you going to find those Matt Turners? Where are you going to find those, Matt Freeses? Matt Freese, I think, Stan, I mean, he did go to Harvard. He was an MLS goalkeeper. It's not like he was playing at the men's league, LA Open League. You made it sound like it was the goal that continues.
Let me
like
check
Santiago Jimenez
and see if Harvard is in the ACC. No, sorry, they're not. All due respect to Matty Freese, he's 8,000 times the goalkeeper I ever wished I could be. But it's Harvard, man.
No, I got you. There's a lot more Facebook CEOs that come out of there. So, so Jack, how do you as head of goalkeeping, how do you help out on that grassroots level, or even with the college game, all that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there are three main pillars to my role. So the first one is education. So looking at coach education and supporting coaches from grassroots all the way through to the elite level. So over the next few years, what we're hoping to do within our education department here and through the collaboration we have with myself and the rest of Sporting is to try and provide opportunities both formally and informally for coaches to get together. So we're currently running some talent ID centers across the country. So we've done a couple in San Diego, we've done a couple in Miami, and we're heading up to the Northeast in February. And I'm going to deliver coaching sessions to some goalkeepers in those areas. And we want to invite coaches to come down. So informally, they can watch what we do, watch how we coach. After the sessions, we can do some Q&As. And these are going to be events where, whilst you don't get coaching a badge from it, or you don't get, we can at least talk together and sit with coaches. Exactly what you're saying, where in your region you can meet another coach, exchange numbers, and then you can have that sport, because we all know the same. Like, you're a goalkeeper coach within a club or within a team, and it's you against not you against the rest of the coaches, but it's you as a goalkeeper coach with your specialism, and you have the assistant coaches and head coach and sports science, and they've all got people that they can communicate with and ask questions and bounce ideas off, and we generally don't have that. And I think that's the first part of what we need to try and do, is to provide that network for you, both in your region, but also across nationally as well. So that's the first sort of remit we're going to do, is that we'll add in these courses too onto that.
Jack, I want to hear the other two things you, so I don't want to.
No problem.
Just you detail a little more on what is like the what is like the main thing that you're offering or giving or setting up with these moments? Like, is it more information for those coaches? Is it more network when you're doing these talent IDs, when you're trying to invest in these coaches? Like, detail that a bit more for me.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So these courses, we're going to bring in the best under 14s, 15s, 16s goalkeepers on both the men's and the women's side in all 6 regions within the US. So we split it up into 6 regions: north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, etc. And we'll try and get the best the best goalkeepers together for a 2-hour session, and then I will put on coaching sessions within that with the support of some local coaches too. So within those sessions, we will hopefully show what we see in US soccer as how goalkeeping development should look like, or what goalkeeping development should look like at 14s, 15s, 16s age groups. After these sessions, we will host some time where coaches can have a Q&A. They can follow me around in that session. They can ask questions, and then we provide some support. But also, it's just bringing people together as well, so that, you know, if you 3 stand next to each other on the pitch, hopefully you have some conversations going, I wouldn't have done that, or I like that part of the session, or maybe if we did that with my group, we could do it this way. And you just start those conversations, and hopefully you exchange those ideas. So it's a starting point for us, the starting point to go into regions and share some of our ideas, and we hope to build upon these ideas from there.
See, you know, Jack, I like one of the things you said right there, because I think one of the problems is, and Bill and Stan, you feel free to step in anytime you want here. I feel in the past with the United States and the USSF, it was the focus was so much on the licenses, rather than the collaboration, the communication, and the exchanging of ideas. People would literally go into these licenses like, I hope I pass, and they would just be, all they would be focusing on is passing the sessions. So it was all about their session design and their presentation and everything. And it's like, dude, there's like 50 more goalkeeper coaches here than the ones that they're in the instructors. Like, you guys should all be talking with each other. You guys should all be learning from each other, because there's more information there than just the 2 instructors that are at the course.
Yeah.
Well,
without doubt.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like if you think of any, I mean, you mentioned Miola, but like you could do Friedel, Keller, Howard, you know, a lot of those trajectories were so based on like some connectivity. So yeah, for the coaches, but also the players as well, like their ability to jump to a place that allowed them to continue the momentum and investment was dependent on, hey, I knew this person and that person got me there. Like, I guess, Jack, I'm curious of, like, you've got this massive country, like, what does it look like for a kid in North Dakota or a kid in, I don't know, some random place in Nevada that's like so far away from MLS next that they're not next to an FC United, they're not next to, you know, an MLS affiliated club. Like, what, I mean, this education seems like paramount for them, I would think, for those kids and those coaches there.
Yeah. So within that, like, as you say, like, we will try and hit the main markets, the areas that will have the most goalkeepers or most productive in those areas. We also do need to make sure we support the ones that maybe haven't had that opportunity. And I think that's one of the big things with this as well, is that if we can provide this opportunity, that it may be a coach from North Dakota, and again, sorry, I'm not quite sure where the biggest place in North Dakota would be, but they get the best, get the coach. Yeah. So if that coach is really interested in developing him or herself, maybe come down and have that conversation, and then inadvertently we develop that goalkeeper through that process, and then maybe an MLS and WSL, USL club might then come and pick them up and bring them in. We will also try and provide opportunities for the formal route too. So there will be more coaching licenses coming on board. There will be some things online coming through hopefully soon, where we can start to, you know, if you can't come to that in-person meeting, where you have opportunities to go online and watch something that is developed by us, and not necessarily a YouTube video or you know, something that you're watching that you just copy and paste into your session. But we hope that you take and use to develop the individual that you're working with, because that's one of our biggest things that we want to try and support, is that you don't just go out, and I'm sure you've sort of done this, Stan, as well on your camps, and all of you, I'm sure, you know, I've done it as well, where you get to a point where you're doing so many sessions in a day, you sort of just do the same session over and over again, regardless of who the kid is or who you're working with or the age group or the gender that you're working with. And I think we want to make sure that we get coaches to think about the individuals that they're working with and what does that individual X need compared to individual Y, and how do we support their development regardless of what age, what stage they're in, is how can we support their development, what they do next.
Jack, I don't know what you're talking about. I focus every profile is different. I am definitely never thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner or, having to text this person back in between a session. Never. Always. Yeah. Every single session is completely different. I spend 17 hours on each session. No,
a lot of that sounds good. And I do mean that. There's not a but associated. What you said, Michael, about all the licensing and what have you, I think there's a lot of bullshit to that was true, meaning that you couldn't be coaching unless you had X, Y, Z, whatever it was. And people learn in many, many different ways. When I'm at a game and I see Peter Meller have to come down and sit at the end of the field because he doesn't have this or that license, to me that's Peter Meller, and I'm like, we're getting something wrong here. People learn in many, many different ways, whether it's, if Jack's going to end up getting around the country and seeing, many, many different places, people are going to learn that way. And we're better for it. Everybody's better for it, whoever shares with who. The formal license, sure, there are going to people that are going to learn that way as well. But I've also seen some coaches that have the biggest letter next to them, and boy, I don't know that that's somebody I want to pull the game from. For me, for others they may, So I think having a way that, especially in our unique nature of goalkeeping, to learn in many different platforms and categories and ways, and I think that's great. I think it's a necessity because there's some great people out there that are doing some great things with some great goalkeepers, not just 10-year-old Susie in Bismarck. The 18-year-old that's ready to have a crack at a pro contract perhaps, or an opportunity to play. And all due respect to Harvard, maybe go to Harvard. I mean, at the end of the day, there's many, many different ways for us to put people help put people into great positions to succeed in this game.
I want to. Sorry, on that, Michael. Sorry, and on that as well. Yeah, I think we also still need to ensure that the licenses are important too. Like we need those licenses, and like we said about the goalkeepers, like we want to ignite that spark in them for playing the position. We also want to ignite the spark in coaches too. That, as you say, around the coaching license, Eloise has done a great job. Who's in charge of the goalkeeping licenses in our education department. We want it to be based around the individual coach that we're working with too, and that they will learn in different ways. They'll get different opportunities and different experiences, but we want to start them on that pathway so that, yes, at the basic level of coaching license, they'll have to learn how to write a session properly and think about the individual that they're working with. But as we go through the higher levels of license, they will get different ways of working, different aspects, different works on periodization and things like that, and that will all come through within those licenses. We're just at the infancy of the formal stuff now, but we also want to make sure that, as you say, Stan, like we get different ways of education and different ways of helping people to grow and develop, which I think has been missing from US soccer for the last few years.
Jack, let's clip that. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, please do. Jack, can you talk about like moving forward with the licenses? And I know I'm trying to not derail you too much because I know you had two other things you were trying to talk about. But I took the C license like 2 years ago, and they were very open. Like, we're not talking goalkeepers. The only thing they would talk about goalkeepers was in the formation of you had to say 1-4-3-3. That was the only thing. Okay. And so there is the goalkeeping C license, which is out. Yeah. But I guess for me, that just seems like one sliver of a need for so many. So I like the idea of just information, connectivity, all this like idea sharing. That's obviously like very, very important. But with the licenses, if you're going to do them, it seems like you should have more tiers to them. So I guess I'm curious, for the goalkeeping stuff, is there more coming there with more tiers of not just a C goalkeeping license, but also for the non-goalkeeping licenses? I don't know if you can speak to that, because I was just kind of baffled of like, oh, we're not talking goalkeepers at all. Like, and I get that it was more for like a head coach oriented, but can you speak to those two things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we will add on more goalkeeping licenses as you go up the chain eventually as well. They're in the sort of process at the moment. And part of my job also is to impact what goes on with outfield coaches and outfield licenses as well. So I'm currently mentoring on a pro license with the sort of senior coaches and things like that as well. So I am starting to try and influence that way as well. So we are, I'm presenting to the pro license coaches there are some goalkeeper coaches on that. There are some outfield coaches on that. There are some assistants on that, and trying to fight the good fight for goalkeepers and for goalkeeper coaches within that as well. That, it's not just about the 10 outfield players or the 20 outfield players in your squad. It's around, okay, how are you developing the goalkeepers within your team situation and within your club or organization or wherever you are? And if you're an assistant coach, like, how are you ensuring that the goalkeepers are part of your team, not apart from it? And I think that's a really key part of my role, is that we want to work in collaboration with managers and with assistant coaches, with sports science, psychology, whoever might be within your department. If you're a grassroots coach and you are in charge of 22 kids and they're all 8 years old and all running around everywhere, like, how can you ensure that you're also impacting the goalkeepers and making sure that they have fun as well, and not just a mannequin stood in the goal getting 22 kids lined up hitting a shot at you? So it's starting from that pro license level and right the way through to grassroots, we need to ensure that goalkeeper coaches work as part of a team, and the goalkeepers are part of your team as well.
What do you think?
Let's flip that.
What do you think was a reason for the absence of goalkeeping attention within the licenses? I mean, you can go any direction you want, but and feel free to talk poorly about the U.S. here, I guess, if you want. But I guess in terms of the last 10 years, before you show up, like, it really was like a dearth of any information, education, focus. It was just kind of like every man on their own island sort of thing. So I guess I'm curious, have you been able to look back of like, oh, this is kind of why there wasn't much attention, or were you able to piece that together at all?
Yeah, I don't know is the honest answer. I'm not sure why, and the federation may have been in a different place at that moment in time. The thing that I'm trying to focus on, the thing I'm trying to concern myself is, how can we impact that going forward? So, I know there's a lot of people doing really good work, but it's in isolation and it's not aligned to US soccer and where we want to try and go. So any way that I can help align people and give support, because that is my main role. Like, I said to you before this, I can't go and coach every single goalkeeper that's out there myself. I'm flying around all four corners of the US at the minute, trying to make a little impact. But it's going to take the coaches that are in the clubs. It's going to take the goalkeepers to push themselves and to get to that place. But I think at the moment they don't have a better opportunity in the next few years. From this period now, with the World Cup obviously this year on the men's side, the 2031 World Cup hopefully on the women's side, this next 6 years, 4, 5, 6 years is going to be amazing for US soccer, and I'm going to hopefully make sure that goalkeeping is a really good byproduct of that as well, on both the men's, the women's, and the extended national teams too. We're really making a push to support Beast, to support futsal, to support our disability teams as well, to ensure that we're creating the world's best teams in our youth and in our senior teams as well. So that's our challenge.
It's a tough task, and it's a tough task because no matter where you are in the world, I think that and again, I think it's a great task, though. I don't want to say that it's a tough task and that it shouldn't be tackled, but the bravest around the world will bring themselves great goalkeeper coaches. They will integrate their goalkeepers into training at whatever moment is needed. But unfortunately, there's a huge percentage that will decide and have decided, I don't know anything about goalkeeping. The worst part, even than that, is I don't want to know anything about goalkeeping. Even if they have somebody on their staff that knows something about goalkeeping, they still don't want it. It's an unnecessary part of the game. It's not going anywhere. We're not, the position isn't, after this next World Cup, it doesn't become, oh, well, all right, now you can have 11 and forget about that guy with gloves. I don't understand the mentality from some really, really good footballing people. I'm fully under the presumption that Klopp was fantastic as it related to working with the GK staff. But I also know that there are others that are in great, great positions that frankly don't give a shit. And it's unfortunate that that's the case, because if that's the case at a higher level, it's obviously the case at a lower level. And I'm fortunate to work in a club that has me full time and working with very good goalkeepers. And I also have a staff of goalkeeper coaches that work with me. I understand that's a rarity, but at the end of the day, we do need to shift a bit of that mindset in all of football, not even just within our goalkeeper coaching groups. That this has got to be adopted for us to become better. And if that task can be handled by you, I think it's great.
That's what I thought was so funny about the C license is that you have all these non-goalkeeper coaches, and then the federation, this is years ago at this point, but was just very publicly like, yeah, we're not talking about it. So it's just kind of like, selfishly, I'm like annoyed, but I think it does kind of further the point of like, well, someone else will deal with them. So
Bill, let me just step in right here, because I don't think that this is a micro problem in regards to U.S. focused. I think this is a macro problem worldwide. And I think one of the biggest issues is that there's no incentive for outfield coaches to educate themselves on the position. And honestly, one of the reasons why so many goalkeepers around the world are trained in isolation and not integrated into the team is because of this fact. And I'll be honest with you, one of the most disturbing things, and I there's nothing I can do about it. It's just, it's the nature of what it is that I am with a goalkeeper an hour or two a week, if I'm lucky, and they're with their team coach, I don't know, 8 hours a week. And that person is not giving them anything. Could you imagine if you came up to an outfield coach and you were hiring them for your club, right? Stan at FC United. And they're like, yeah, I don't do anything with left backs. I just don't. That's not my thing. I just don't work with left backs. They're like, I've got a left back guy. He comes in every once in a while and works with the left backs. And then when I need a left back, I ask him to bring the left back over here. But then I don't actually give any personal coaching to that left back during that session. There is no reason why outfield coaches, and I'm just getting on a soapbox here, should not understand positional awareness, angle play, possession to out of possession. That has nothing to do with technical final actions. Nothing. They should understand that, and they should be able to utilize their goalkeepers like that and coach them in their sessions.
The bigger thing is the managing the mentality of a mistake is more so than anything else there, especially in the formative windows of 12 to 17, let's say. You could certainly plus minus that, but managing the goalkeeper's mentality, I think, is something that we miss. But we could go on.
I think I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of managers who are interested in the goalkeeper and utilize their qualities and their skills in the team. I think if you look at modern football now, like Pep Guardiola with how Edison did it, and he was an integral part of their team. But I'm fortunate where we are here. We've got two head coaches on the men's and the women's side who their goalkeeper coaches are fully integrated in their coaching staff, and the managers really do care about what that goalkeeper looks like and how that goalkeeper performs and how that goalkeeper fits into their game model and their style of play. And it's, if that's where US soccer is, we're trying to get to, we have two leading coaches who demand that, then hopefully that starts to have a byproduct of that as we go further down in the ecosystem in the US. But I think, if you're an outfield coach, we don't want it to be adversarial with the outfield coach. We want to be part of their team, and we can support and advise them and fight the corner for our goalkeeper to be involved in the team, because I think if that's part of our role. If you think that the goalkeeper should be involved, and it's not about saying the coach is right or wrong, it's about getting the coach to understand from the goalkeeper's perspective and to understand that they are going to be an integral part of your team, and they are going to support your build-up. They are going to support your control the space with balls played in behind the last line of defence, and it'll allow us to apply more pressure out of possession, or allow us to build and take out more players if we do it properly, because the goalkeeper will be the spare person in the game. And I think, hopefully, and I'm sure it is going this way anyway, our licensing system over here will start to reflect that. But any young coach who's coming through and developing and wants to be a head coach should, I hope, watch someone like Emma Hayes or watch someone like Maurizio and how we utilize the goalkeeper, or Pep Guardiola, or whoever it might be. That they are being successful through, firstly, the game model and how their team plays, but also how they utilize the goalkeeper within their team as well.
Sure.
Yeah, another thing too, Jack, in regards to that, and Bill and Stan, you can attest to this because I'm sure you're familiar with this and in your environment, getting a goalkeeper from a different environment. I've had young goalkeepers come to me and I go, oh, here, do the blah blah. It's like, oh, my coach doesn't let me do that. My coach doesn't want me to do that because that coach is looking at it as they're looking at the goalkeeper as a tool for the success of their squad as opposed to a member of their squad that they need to develop as well too. So like, I literally had this conversation just a couple of weeks ago. Your goalkeeper, I'm like, well, you can play that ball out there. He's like, oh, my coach doesn't let me play that ball there. Why? I'm like, it's like, well, she's not that skilled with her feet. So he doesn't want me to play it over there. And I'm like, that is the most detrimental thing to this goalkeeper's development whatsoever. I mean, it's just insane. It's just insane to me. How do we combat that? Jack, how do we get it back to that club that person's going to be reprimanded? Because they should be reprimanded if they're in a youth development structure that they are disallowing their goalkeepers to explore and try things that may fail.
Yeah, I mean, reprimanded is a difficult thing to do.
I mean, okay, maybe reprimand is a bit much, but you know what I mean. A conversation.
Yeah, how are you going to get in trouble? Yeah.
I'm not the sheriff. I'm not the sheriff. I'm just the head. I'm just the head. Yeah. Okay. I think it can only be through our education and through like conversations like this. And we want our goalkeepers to take risks and to play and develop. And I think, the best goalkeepers in the world are the ones who take risk and are brave and show emotional control under pressure. And I think as coaches, we should be allowing them the opportunities to do that. Like youth development should not be win at all costs. Youth development should be about developing youth and developing the individual within the setting that you're in or the ecosystem that you're in. And whether that's a grassroots coach, whether that's someone in MLS, someone who's in the NWSL, you should be trying to develop the individual you're working with. And whether that's the number one, the number two, number three, or little Johnny or Jill who are in the under eights in your grassroots team, like that should be your main focus on developing the individual. And at the youth age, results don't matter. Like I've worked in the youth system, I've worked in the youth development ages, I've worked on camps. Like we need to make sure that we are supporting, challenging, and developing the individuals that we work with, so that hopefully at one point they get to a World Cup final and are able to do whatever Emma Hayes or Maurizio Pochettino are asking them to do. If it's a different manager or a different manager that comes in or coach that comes in, they should be able to perform however that manager wants to play. And we need to build goalkeepers that are able to do everything and are able to adapt and show how impactful they can be in a game because they've worked on these things, they've made mistakes, they've learned from those mistakes, they've had opportunities to repeat sessions that are related to the game and look like the game and are not just jumping over hurdles and through hoops and stuff. They should be performing and developing in an environment where they're practicing skills that are real to the game and are going to help them develop for whatever age and stage they're at the moment in time.
Officer Robinson, when you go around to these places, slip the handcuffs on various coaches. We see about 1,200 goalkeepers a year, and I'm very, very happy about that number. But what I'm happier about is that in any of our coaching environments, any staff that comes in with us, they coach the game the way they want to coach the game. They don't coach the game my way or our way or any of that stuff that happens in the world. They coach their way. And the reason being, and to your point, Michael, is that John, Susie, at 12 years old to 22, may have 5 to 7 to 9 different coaches that work with them. And being told that you can't do something or governing that player or, it seems so unfortunate to me that I want them, even in a micro environment of 5 days, I want them to see 3, 4, 5 different coaches and realize that there are different cues and stuff that they can take, technical points, tactical points, that can maybe switch them on or provide something different, what have you. So it's tough to hear that that's happening. I know that it does, but it's tough to hear that, especially when someone, you can see that 15-year-old girl that's really going, she's going to be really fucking good, and somebody is doing that, and it's unfortunate to take away the development of the left foot or the ability to play high to take away an opportunity or whatever it may be. And it's tough. I know it's the case, but hopefully there'll be more and more coaches that'll be much more willing to extend a leash to a player.
It's interesting, Stan, what you just said right there in regards to, it's unfortunate for these players to not develop these skill sets, and that a coach is, holding them back and everything like that. Jack, I think one of the most difficult things when it comes to a development
Michael,
plan. Yeah, go
Michael,
ahead.
I cut you off here quick. I just think about time. I just want to hear the other two things really quick from Jack that he was talking about with his gig. So I hold your, you might be able to segue your question.
I won't even remember what I was talking about, Bill. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I did. I'm glad we did talk about the education, because I know a lot of people more than just us have had a lot of questions about it and kind of where it's going, where it's been. Yeah. But real quick, Jack, hit those other two things that you were going to mention about kind of your focus and your responsibilities.
Yeah. So the other two sections that I'm working on, so education is one of them, but talent ID is obviously another big one. So that's part of what we try and do. And again, we want to increase the number of touch points that goalkeepers can have with our national teams. So whether that be through local scouts in their areas, through the talent ID centres, whether that be through national camps that we hold within, hopefully, the new national training centre when that comes on board in sometime this year. So that's a big part of it. And then when they're in our system, when they're in our national teams, is making sure that whilst we will have some goalkeepers that will be able to perform now, there'll also be some goalkeepers that will develop later and develop in the longer term. And that might be someone like a Matt Fries, who apparently came from nowhere and into the national teams, according to Stan. But he,
Harvard, you got Chet Messing. There you go.
Yes, he was in Philadelphia. He was in the second team in Philadelphia. So it's making sure that he's monitored and developed them, and he's not someone that's missed. That maybe he doesn't come into the national teams at 15, 16, 17, but he maybe comes into national teams and plays a 20s World Cup, or has that sort of experience. And we want to make sure that we provide those experiences where we not only monitor the ones that are in our system, we have somebody who's in charge of making sure that pathway is aligned and that pathway is monitored, whether you're in our system or whether you're just on the edge of our system, or whether you're nowhere near our system, just in case that you develop late, like a Matt Turner, who was nowhere near the system until he came into that sort of late, the late market that he came into. So I think that's sort of the processes we're going through within that, and we're developing our systems internally here, we're developing our processes externally. So again, the regional camps that we're putting on within that is part of that process. And then the third thing is within our national team. So we're looking to increase the number of full-time goalkeeper coaches that we have within our system. So again, that continuity and that overview of the pathway will be much more consistent. Thank you. We're also trying to provide support with our network coaches. So that,
I mean that seriously. I didn't mean to be
like
a dick. I think that's great. I think that it's, again, our country's so big that we need more of you. The country's too big for you. We need 8 to 10 of you.
Yeah.
I mean that sincerely. It's about time.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me.
Yeah. No, and again, I think.
Go ahead, Jack.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, no. You're the head of goalkeeping. I am just a comedian who lives in Los Angeles. So you continue on, please. If there's something you want to say.
No, I think within those national teams, like we also want to make sure that our network coaches, so the coaches that come in and support our national teams, whilst also working in clubs or working in local clubs as well, that they also get the support too. So we're trying to have monthly sort of annual webinars with them. Again, we're trying to support their development within our national teams too. And we currently have a group, they're away. So all of our head coaches and a few of our network coaches are away on a individual development camp in Phoenix. They've brought some college age goalkeepers in and some college age outfield players in, and they're just trying some sessions out, and they're spitball ideas, and they're working on their development as well. So things like this are going to start to happen, and we're very fortunate in that sporting director Matt Crocker here is really trying to drive and push everything forward, up to the CEOs and our presidents that are really pushing and trying to develop what we do with US soccer here. And I think it's a really exciting time to be part of the federation, to be part of what we're doing. And I think we're only going to help support coaches that are out there and goalkeepers for us, but players as well, that to get the opportunities to fulfill their dreams and play for the national team and go to a World Cup or an Olympics. I think it's exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jack, what you were just saying right there, and I think one of the conversations that, I've had with a lot of people in regards to obviously the scale of what you're talking about with the country and having communication, because of the fact that you can't get to certain places, a lot of people are kind of either left to their own devices or they're going with like what works for them in their environment, and they're not exploring and they're not trying things and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and I want to see in the federation, when people come into the licenses, that they are encouraged to fail. They're encouraged to try things that may not work, or do something different, or thinks outside the box, rather than a lot of the times. I think it used to be with US soccer, whenever I remember when the development academy, when USDA first started, they would have instructors, come to shadow at the clubs, and people would try to, when they were coming in, run things the federation way, and they would run their session the way the federation would run it or whatever. And you're living a lie, because then you're going to go back to doing whatever your thing is the week after or whatever. So it's like, is there a conversation in US soccer to be like, we want people to fail, we want people to explore, we want people to try stuff, or challenge us and show us something different that we may not have even thought of before?
Yeah, definitely. I think we want to ensure that coaches can still keep their personality and their way of coaching and things like, without knowing you very much, Stan, I think me and you have different personalities from what it seems. But, and we will coach in different ways. But what we want to try and make sure is that, and I think we're pretty aligned in this, is that how we coach, or the principles and guiding ideas are similar, but you will add your own flavor, your own personality to the way that you coach. So we're not going to be too prescriptive, because I don't think we can be, but we will give you guidelines and ways that we've done and that we've seen and experienced. But again, like as you said, around those coaching things, like when I was working for the English FA, we had coaching educational courses and stuff, and the best moments that we had were sat in the bar having a beer with the coaches that you're working with on a night, and you were chatting and sharing ideas and talking about things that had gone well and things that hadn't. And I think they're the experiences that we need to make sure that we share with each other. And I think, hopefully through our formal and our informal educational processes, we will start to increase the number of conversations that we're having, but we will guide and show without being prescriptive on how we would like coaches to coach over here in the US.
So a challenge that I don't expect you to answer, Coach, I seriously don't, but we're coming up onto a World Cup, and that's exciting. And I've lived through '94 as well, and hear how exciting that was. And MLS to start in '96, and it was supposed to start earlier, but it did. It got going in '96. That's awesome. All that sort of stuff. But to then hope and think that guys like yourself and guys like Coach Pochettino and a good friend of mine, Gonzalo Segaras, who is managing some of the under teams, and my former roommate with the Fire. I love all of that. How does that continue post World Cup? Because Fabian Ott isn't here anymore, and he was here, and that's the nature of the beast. We get opportunities, we move on, we stay, whatever the case may be. But the challenge in a national team environment is it's not the club. And so how is it, and again, I don't expect an answer, because I don't know if you have the answer, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but to keep some of these things that you've mentioned, hopefully with that momentum carrying on after, I'll be at US Paraguay, and I will smell it. And I've smelled it in '94. And I was in Mexico for the last World Cup qualifier that ever mattered, at least up to this point, years ago. So I love it. But what does 27 bring in August of 26? is all that stuff
Yeah.
going to be carrying on?
Yeah, it's a good question. And personally, for me, like this period is really exciting. So I'm fortunate in that I work across both the men's, the women's, and on the extended national teams in youth and education. So for me, this period now, from here until the 2031 Women's World Cup, like is one of the most exciting periods within the US environment. Like you've also got MLS growing, you've got NWSL growing, you've got the USL leagues coming on board now. Like this to me seems like a really exciting period of time, and I'm not sure what would tempt me away from this period. I have to do my job right, otherwise my contract gets cancelled. So that's first and foremost. But as long as I'm doing my job and people are happy with me doing my job, this to me seems like a really exciting period of time.
That's great, man.
And the things that we're putting in place now, and it's not just me, it's everybody that I'm working with in the federation, from talent ID to education to everyone on the sporting side, to Maurizio and Tony Jimenez on the men's side, and Stuart Searle and Emma Hayes on the women's side. Like we are trying to build something that, whether it's me or whether it's somebody else in this role, there are processes and plans in place that will allow this to continue regardless of who's in place. If they want to come in and tear it all up, no problem at all. But we're trying to put something in that's going to create a legacy and be lasting. You know, we have an amazing opportunity with the National Training Centre coming on board in this summer. Like that, you know, I was in England when St George's Park was built in England, and that changed the face of the relationship between clubs and the national teams over there. And yes, you know, we can you can get to St George's Park in about 4 hours from most places in the UK, whereas over here it's a little bit different. But I think what you have is all facets of US soccer in one place with a grass pitch just outside your window, and that's never happened before in this country to my knowledge. And that is a game changer. That's going to be something that there's going to be coaching education teams will be running courses, whilst there will be extended national teams futsal camps going on. There'll be the women's national team at our training ground while the under 15 girls are there. Like if we can't inspire, if we can't say like this is how we build support for each other, and there will be coaches coming in and out of that place all the time. Like this is where we start to build legacy, to build something for the future of US soccer. And hopefully the people that are working higher above me are trying to make sure that continues for a longer time in terms of budgetary and sponsorship and all that kind of stuff. But I know that we're trying to put plans in place to ensure that continues to.
But by the way, Jack, when you said grass, I wasn't familiar with what that is.
Turf.
What is
Sorry,
grass?
turf. Yeah, that green stuff that you play on.
I'm trying to remember the last time I had a grass field.
True. Yeah.
Jack, a real quick question on what you just said there. Can you detail, and you can either give like one or many examples or answers of, you know, let's say you've got little Susie in Bismarck, North Dakota. How can she see progress with goalkeeping in the federation in 12 to 24 months? Because I think the thing we've run into the last decade or so is like, oh, it's getting better. And then we look, and MLS this last year, which I know this is not your control, but MLS this last year, for the first time ever, had more foreign goalkeepers and American goalkeepers playing games. NWSL is trending that direction. We've obviously stagnated a lot of ways from where we were with the height of the heights and now where we're at. Where can people look to for like, oh, wow, that is different. That is something that is changing, that is helping in 12 to 24 months for you?
That's a good question. A difficult one too. I think, you know, we are, because of the sheer size and scale of the country, it is small incremental changes that will happen, but we are putting these things in place to last. So we don't just want to come in and do something new and shiny that looks great now, but doesn't last. So we're trying to put things in place that will last and have clear fundamental processes. And that's going to take, you know, as you say, like it's going to take support from MLS, it's going to take support from NWSL, it's going to take support from clubs, ECNL clubs and things like that. Like it's going to be something where everybody is aligned and working towards the same thing. And I think for little Susie in North Dakota, like I think if she starts to see her coach just think about her individually a little bit more, I think that for me is a great starting point in the next 12 to 24 months, where he or she suddenly goes, actually, little Susie needs to work on X, or I'm going to have a conversation with little Susie around what she wants to achieve in the next 6 weeks, or I'm going to show Susie this video that the US Soccer has put on the website that shows Fallon or Mandy McGlean or Claudia Dickey doing this amazing save, and this could be you. And I think that's where we need to start. We need to start that inspiration of getting the coaches to think about goalkeepers and outfield players too as individuals and how they can support them. So longer term there are big things, but hopefully in the short term it's that working on an individual basis as a coach.
Speaking on the women's game, and Jack, I know you're running short on time here, so whenever you need to go, I completely understand, because I've got 50,000 more things that I want to talk about, and I know Bill has like a spreadsheet full of things, and Stan is probably snowed in right now as we speak, so he's got plenty of time. By the way, Bill, when I say clip that, it's for the AI to recognize that, like, to clip something like this as opposed to like me talking about my lasagna.
I thought you were just like a hype man, like, clip it.
Oh yeah, clip that. Let's clip that.
I was like, okay, all right.
If I say it, will it throw it off?
No, it won't.
Flip that.
No.
Flip that.
Yeah.
Flip that.
Yeah. Exactly. Clip that right there. But I want to talk about this because this is a question that has been brought up to me before, and I don't know what the specific answer is for this, because I think it all is it varies as well. In regards to goalkeeping development, we've had a lot of different people on from different sides, on the men's side, on the women's side. I've had this question brought up: should the development plan process be accelerated on the women's side because women mature earlier than men? On the average, I'm not saying it's a clean slate across, but we generally see women choosing their universities earlier on than men. We tend to see them being full grown in environments, sooner than men. Should that be the case? Should be what you're doing with 11-year-old boys, be something, that, once you get, you get what I'm kind of trying to say. It's like, it's like a 15-year-old woman, farther along than a 15-year-old boy.
Again, I don't think we can generalize in that. I think you have to look at the individual within that. I think the systems on the men's and the women's side are very different in terms of leagues and structures and things like that. Obviously, college is a slightly more favored route on the women's side. I don't think we can generalize in that way. I think we need to be individual. A lot of the work that Emma Hayes has come in on the women's side is to look at females through a female lens. So not just me as a male saying, oh, this is what women should do. It should be actually, what does this female require in her development in terms of physical maturation, emotional development, in terms of her female physical development as well? Like, is she menstruating? How is that like how does that affect what does she do on a daily basis? How does that affect how you coach her depending on which stage of menstruation she's at? And I think it's conversations like this that we need to have, that we need to see the female goalkeeper, female player through a female lens, and it has to start from that way. And I don't think we can prescribe, or because she's 15 and a 15-year-old girl, she should have this. No, there's a lot more complexity to that. And I think there's a lot more complexity on the physical dynamic of a women. And so Stuart Searle is doing a lot of work from the senior team, but to try and develop down around like pre-activation and developing the movement patterns that are required for a female goalkeeper compared to a male goalkeeper, and then individualizing that further down depending on the stage of menstruation that they're in that month. And I think all of these ideas need to be brought around, and even things down to like the kit that the women wear or the facilities that they use. Like, you can't compare the two. It should be female specific. So I think we need to really get into that kind of detail as we move forward, and we can't just cookie cutter cut, oh, well, the men have done this, so the women need to do this. Like, even the data that we use to monitor their GPS units is based on male data. It's not female specific data. So we go into that sort of level of detail around how can we provide the best environments, the best support for goalkeeping development. In terms of the processes on the female side, we tried to introduce goalkeeper talent, college goalkeeper ID centers, where we have more, again, touch points for college-age goalkeeping, female goalkeepers. We're also, Emma and her team have brought in the women's under-23s really, really close to work alongside the senior national team, so that that step, that gap between the senior team and the 23s doesn't become too big. It's a little step so that, you know, we have younger goalkeepers that can step up into that. And Emma and her staff really do care about what's going on in that pathway down below. So I hope that we will start to get much more female centered and a female specific lens on their development in the US. And I think I might actually be at the forefront of a lot of female development on both the outfield side, but certainly on goalkeeping side too in the next few years.
Bill's been a huge advocate in the women's game, and I think that's
Yes.
fantastic. And we've been the recipient of that at camp. And, you know, over here you've got Marissa Bova and Casey Current, and probably first semester sophomore year is when she made her commitment to Purdue. So she was 6.5 years aligned with Purdue, not just 4. And, you know, she blossomed early. Then you look at guys like, and I'll drop some names, but Adrian Herveyevich or Michael Moroz, who's in college and just drafted. Kane Rizvanovic, who's in your youth system with Minnesota as well. They were much later, you know, so it wasn't that. I think that the bigger thing, and I'm not going to pretend to have the female lens by any means, but the mentality is the mentality. You either have the mentality or you need to work on the mentality. And the age isn't going to do it. The body isn't going to do it. The mentality is in the environment in which you're training your mentality and flexing your mentality, I think is hugely important. What type of guidance are you receiving or potentially not receiving in those places? And yeah, I do think that the female player is recognized earlier. I don't think that at the age of what it was with Marissa, that any of those 3 guys that I just mentioned that are experiencing quality joy at 18-ish to 20 years old, at that age, that wouldn't have been a discussion. They weren't ready for that physically or mentally. So yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
To tack on that, and I don't, Jack, if you need a role, this might be a good question to end on. But I guess you talk so much on being so individualized with like the age and men and women and what stage, and you know you're having all this detail, and there's always this big discussion on like, is there an American style? Is what you're talking about now with a lot of the detail of, well, depends, which I think is fair and accurate. Is that more of, hey, this is just modern goalkeeping, or is it like, hey, like in America specifically, we need to have this? Because I guess I'm thinking compared to England, you know, I do feel like there's a bit of a thread of English goalkeepers over the years, just even going way back to Gordon Banks' book right there. Like you see like a thread, whereas American keepers, like one year you might have someone here, and next year it's here. Then even like the men's and women's national team pools you have very different goalkeepers there. So I guess I'm curious, when you think of an American style, is it like, hey, it is a lot of this variety that we've got to be very detailed for, or is this more of like, hey, this is just modern goalkeeping that we need to be smart with this?
Yeah, I think it's an element of both. So definitely modern goalkeeping requires you to deal with the individual that you're sort of working with in front of you. But for me, and you probably have to tell me more of this, like you look at how Brad Friedel and Casey Keller, like, all of the sort of goalkeepers that had Alyssa Nair as well on the women's side, like they were really, really good goalkeepers. They were experienced. They'd sort of fought their way to get to where they sort of had, they'd gone through a lot of experience. They played lots of games young. They had, they're really aggressive. And I think that, I guess, to me would be an American goalkeeper. We're trying to work on our goalkeepers. Say like 3 things we're looking to try and develop are emotional control. I think if you're getting to the end stages of a World Cup or an Olympics, like, can you continue to play the way you played under that kind of pressure? You look at how Alyssa performed in the Olympics, and the saves that she made towards the back end of that tournament were crucial to her, or to the team winning that gold medal. And I think, if she can keep that, if she didn't show that emotional control, it could have been a different story. We also want to make sure that they're adaptable. So whichever manager is in charge or whichever age group they're at, we want them to be able to play and perform for that manager. So like we discussed before about having all the skills in the toolbox to play the ball into the fullback, or to just go long, or to play and build through pressure. Like, can they be adaptable to develop that? And then the final one is, can they make an impact? I think if you look at all the sports that you play in America, whether it be basketball, American football, like they are perfect sports for developing goalkeepers. Like, and you can definitely make an impact within the game with those physical attributes and the hand-eye coordination that comes with those games. So, across those three things, emotional control, adaptability, and being impactful, I'm hoping that's what we start to see. And again, as you said before, there hasn't really been that focus or alignment on goalkeeping previously in US soccer. So hopefully, as we go over the next few years, we start to bring that alignment together. We should start to see that as a trend. We had that with English FA, and Tim Dittmer, who was in charge of the goalkeeping department at that period, did a really, really good job. And Eric Steele, who was part of us and part of the coaching staff there, they had built that over a number of years, and it wasn't a short process to do that. So my job here is to try and do that and try and align that together so that we do continue to produce the next Matt Frieses, produce the next Casey Kellers, produce the next Alyssa Nayers that come through and can consistently perform. But it's not just one goalkeeper per year. We've got a depth within that who are all challenging for that number one spot.
Clip that.
Yeah, look at that. Stan's got it. Stan's got it. Stan's got it. Well, Jack, I appreciate you taking all this time. I know you've got a really, really busy schedule right now, but I think you've brought up just so many just important points, and the conversation should just continue going. And I think hopefully this, what I want, and I think what Bill wanted to get out of this whole thing is to start inspiring thought by others and to get conversations going, as opposed to all like this is the ends all when it comes to goalkeeping. I do want to ask, and this is for the entire panel, not just Jack, because I've got my own personal feelings on this. One of the biggest, I think, issues that we have in goalkeeping development at the youth level in this country is goalkeepers being made goalkeepers way too early, and then their parents and youth coaches encouraging them to no longer play other sports or other positions. And I personally think it's a detriment because, like you're talking about right there, I think the most adaptable goalkeepers and the ones that are able to improvise the most and be effective in actions in a game when they don't follow, quote unquote, the goalkeeping technique, are ones that have played multiple sports because they've got their bodies just move better. Are you in agreement, and how does the rest of the panel feel?
Yeah, I think having a multitude of sports and ability, you first and foremost need to understand the game, and you need to understand different positions and roles within that, and where your role fits within the game. And that can be from playing, small 2v2, 3v3 games as a 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, right the way through to playing different positions or different sports as you develop. There has to be an element of specialization at some point, but I think it's important as well that you understand the game and are a really good athlete, because I think the demands of the game now, I just came from Liverpool, where we're playing an average 60 games a year, and that high level, elite level, is not easy to do when you're playing at that such quality. So you have to be robust, you have to be physically prepared to go and play those games, and you have to have a previous work that's gone into developing that physicality. So yeah, I think it's an important part. We still want kids to be kids. They're not all going to make it as professionals. We'd love them to, but they're not all going to do that. But especially on the female side, making sure that they still fall in love with sport and with games and with physical maturation and development. I think that's going to be really important for them too.
Yeah,
I think it's huge. It's huge for players that I've working with that are now on as well. If we were to throw Michael Morose in again, that guy can step in as a striker in a decent enough game and hold his own. It's important for him to understand football that way. Andy Fowler playing multiple sports and then still being an elite level goalkeeper. I think that's outstanding as well. I think it's important in particular, to play as a CB in the youth environment and be that center back and understand that correlation and relationship is very, very important in your development as a youth player, and certainly even as a burgeoning player that's starting to really show some skills. So I think whether it be other sports or other positions, I do believe it's hugely important. And I think what Coach talked about there in particular, the correlation between many of our American sports, even if it's hockey and a stick handling, the stick handling is still handling of a stick, and there's correlation there of what we do in particular with our hands. Baseball, basketball are obvious. American football is obvious. So I think those things help. And Tom Crean, even when he was at Marquette, recruited soccer players that played basketball. Wesley Matthews was one of them, who ended up being a full max contract guy in the NBA. And he was a fantastic soccer player. So I think it's unfortunate when people are steering them away from multiple sports, especially in the goalkeeping realm.
Yeah, I would just say in general, if you're going to go spend your time and energy and use your body in a way that is someone else's opinion as opposed to your own, like, what are you doing? We're not that old and we're not playing anymore. All four of us, there's a lot of time to not play.
I'm still playing. What are you talking about? I have a torn tendon and fracture right here that I'm recovering from.
But no, like you got a limited window. It's always kind of a joke for me to someone say, hey, you should go do this with your like body and your mind. Like, fuck you, I'm gonna go do what I want to do. And am I gonna have more fun with your idea or my idea when it comes to like me spending time, energy, money? Like, I get everyone's got these different routes, but from Matt Turner to I'm trying to think of guys who got in like very early, who knows to say where they're gonna go, so you might as well go do your thing, and the cards get played out that way. So yeah.
I mean, look, Bill,
I will have to go in a minute if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Of course. All right. Well, let's wrap this up right here. Well, Jack, thanks for taking all the time. If anybody wants to connect with you, whether they have some questions, whether they listened or watched this show, and it sparked some conversation, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, good question. I think I don't know whether we've filtered that through you guys. If there's questions from this podcast, and then I can answer those questions from there. But yeah, I mean, we will certainly be advertising things on the Learning Centre through the Federation's education system. I'm also on Instagram, so if you want to ask questions through there as well, then please do that. It's jack.robinsonofficial. But yeah, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that come through this filtered through you guys.
You don't want to drop your personal email on the podcast?
No cell phone number.
I don't know how big your fan base is on this, so I thought I'd be careful there.
Flip that.
There was, God, I forgot who it was who gave their cell phone number on the air, and it was like a pretty big name too who did it. I forgot who it was. Very, 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 very brave, very brave of them in today's day and age. Stance.
Nice.
Pulling it up right now.
Jack Robinson official follower. Right there.
Thank you.
Right there.
Look at that. Stan, obviously some exciting stuff going on with Camp Shutout. What, you got 1,000 goalkeepers this summer? What's going on?
We will have 800, and we've registered 650 over the last 10-11 days. So we're stoked about it. We got a kick-ass staff lined up, and some quality goalkeepers coming in as well. So pretty happy about it. And we'll be on natural grass, by the way, as always, in God's country, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Nothing like it.
Must be nice to live in an area that has enough space for grass. That must be very, very, very nice. Bill, what do you got going on? Anything you want to plug?
Man, this was the window where I know people, I can get them on for interviews. So I was just happy to get Jack here. Appreciate the time, Jack. A lot of good information you shared. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. Okay, I guess if you want to reach out to Bill, you can just not reach out to Bill because he's right now doing interviews. Yeah. No, I think it's what everybody soccer, right?
Yeah, there you go. Everybody soccer, okay. Twitter.
There we go. There we go. Guys, if you want to reach out to me, multiple places you can do it. First off, you can do it at Michael Magid on anything non-soccer related, anything comedy related, all that sort of fun stuff. You can also reach out to at Goalkeeper Podcast or at the Union Goalkeeping for anything goalkeeping related. By the way, a lot of people don't know this yet, but the Union Goalkeeping will be switching to a next generation app within the next couple of weeks. There'll be a seamless migration. A lot more new features, a lot of really cool stuff that you weren't able to do with this. A lot of things that you all have been asking for. So really, really excited about that. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.